So I filmed a walkthrough of the dance paintings, my show that just closed in Cologne, to really give a sense of the works in the space, the works in relation to each other, and to just share a bit more information about what I've made, the texture of the works, which you can really see here, and allow you to get a sense of what goes into putting a show like this together. As you'll probably be aware by now, I've been thinking a lot about the work of Matisse and looking at his dance paintings, his works that are themed in that way, and also looking at the way that he was using flatness and the way that I am using a virtual sense of the 3D, looking to kind of overlap or conflate those in some way. This triptych on the screen now relates to a famous mural that he completed for Albert Barnes that is on show in Philadelphia at the Albert Barnes Foundation. The work itself compositionally is full of energy and movement, despite being constructed from these large areas of flat color. Using underpainting in a very limited palette of Van Dyke brown, white, and ultramarine blue, I have painted what we see on screen and then used my specially developed printing technique to layer digital aspects over the top. And so what we're seeing are wireframes that come from my own workflow. So for example, this work on screen now, you'll recognize the shapes of the figures from the Matisse mural. And so there we go, sort of this hanging, amazing pendulous body that I took as a reference and remade in 3D. So I have this workflow using digital software where I am able to dial in very precise poses on the bodies. I'm sort of fine-tuning single fingers, tips of fingers, things like that. And these wireframes that occur across the works, they are the wireframes of the 3D models that I am normally painting directly onto. And so in these works, I've taken the 3D and put that onto the painting. So these 3D wireframe models go over the top of hand-painted canvases. And in that way, I'm putting the 3D onto the painting rather than what I'm normally doing, which is putting the painting onto the 3D. This sculpture in the center, which was first developed as a kind of, I guess, a digital sketch and a virtual sculpture initially. 2016, I tested to see if I could recreate Matisse's dance painting, the famous 1907, I think, 1910 maybe, painting that, so just purely as a formal exercise, I was like, can I construct this painting using 3D models? Is there anatomical sort of like the possibility of doing that? And it resulted in this really interesting three-dimensional object, initially a virtual object, now obviously a very much physical object that was displayed in the gallery. This was also shown in London at my show at Unit London. So this is a 3D printed work, but as you can see, there is the texture of the brushstrokes. It's a very fine resin print, which has been reinforced with a metallized layer and then painted blue, and it comes on this custom plinth. But there's something fantastic about being able to walk around the back of a very famous painting and look at these new compositional perspectives that emerge, and that I'm sort of being able, I'm seeing that all the time. You know, when I'm working on my works, I'm always zooming around, allowing compositional moments to open up. And I think this is a really successful way to kind of give the audience access to the multidimensionality that I live inside. And there is this sort of fantastic interplay of looking through the sculpture onto these other works, and I think that represents some of the larger multi-dimensionality of self-referential elements that bounce through my works and reappear. This is an object that has appeared in my paintings, so there is this very interesting back and forth that I'm trying to fold in at all times, because it is reflective of the nature of my mind and the way that I approach creativity, the way that I make art, in a sense. Everything is always connected, evolving, and a component that can be viewed as part of a larger whole, a world, or perhaps a universe of a constellation of planets and elements. That's how I experience it. Everything is floating. And so this is contemporary dance, this work on the wall that we're looking at, and it has this wonderful theme of people holding hands and dancing together. That for me is an intensely positive image, but it's also a viscerally powerful image. So I'm very interested in the ways that things that are wholesome and important can be represented in ways that are powerful, and not sort of just twee, because I don't think it's idealistic to go after wholesome human interdependence and collectivity. I think it's essential. I think it is our reality. And there's something about these timeless dancers that are as much from the past as they are the future, dancing in this linen void, and every step they take, a platform arises to support them. So these colourful triptychs also have the same compositions as the works on the opposite wall within the room. So I purposefully put together these constructed works which have, cutouts within them. And, obviously as a Matisse reference, but compositionally these figures come from a mural, an unfinished mural, a version of the work that Matisse was working on and he left unfinished. And so it's defined by its underpainting. And this triptych is also based on the same one. And I really like the unfinished version, so to speak. There's something about the bodies in them that are sort of stronger, more dynamic, less yielding, a sort of ungendered masculinity that moves through his version that is not there in the Barnes one. I mean, I do love the Barnes one as well, that hanging sort of U-shaped body that we saw at the beginning. I mean, something that we're seeing here, or in the last clip, is texture, surface texture. And I think it's really interesting to look at the ways that digital processes, digital painting can be creating texture, surface, the sort of like touched up sensations that we're looking for in painting in particular.